So I rewatched Breaking Bad. I did it because, obviously I saw it or else it wouldn't be a rewatch, but I did it because after this past season of Better Call Saul ended, I'm like, well, I want more of these characters. So while watching Better Call Saul, I always got a craving to go back because Better Call Saul brings the old Breaking Bad characters back. So I wanted to see them again. I missed those characters. And then also watching a show like Ozark, which I think is good, but I always think of Breaking Bad when I watch it. So watching Ozark is like, oh, I wish I was watching Breaking Bad. Again, the show is good, but it's like, yeah, it's pretty Breaking Bad-like, which is fine. If you're going to have an imitation, at least have a good imitation of it. And of course, there are some differences between Ozark and Breaking Bad, but Breaking Bad's the standard bearer. So, watching Better Call Saul, I missed it. Yeah, I missed Breaking Bad because there's so many callbacks to Breaking Bad. So I just wanted to get, reacquainted with everything. And I must have watched like all 5 seasons of Breaking Bad within, maybe a month or two because I just kept watching and watching and watching. Any downtime I had, it's like Breaking Bad. It's like sweep aside all the other shows I'm watching a show again, which I never do. And then with the rumors, or I don't even know if it's a rumor, I think it's been confirmed, there's a Breaking Bad sequel coming, and I believe it's going to focus on Jesse. So, after Jesse escaped, I want to know what happens to him. And, that's the good part about being, there being so many television options. There are bad parts because there's so much good TV, you're never going to get a chance to watch all of it. But the good parts are that we can constantly revisit characters. Now, I know people would say that an opinion would be, well, that's not a good thing. Let a great show lie. Let a great show stop, remember it for what it was, and then move on to do something new. I think you can move on to something new and then constantly revisit shows of the past, provided they're good, because why end it if something's good? In life, you want to know how people are, how they continue on. So I understand, wanting more and having all this speculation, what could happen. That's good, but, why not make it official? We have the options there. Vince Gilligan is back doing it, so I have the utmost confidence in Vince Gilligan's ability. So I cannot wait for this Breaking Bad sequel. And watching all of Breaking Bad, it's one of my favorite shows. I think Game of Thrones might be my favorite show. But then again, Game of Thrones, there are a few episodes that kind of waver. It's like, this one wasn't that good. Breaking Bad, if you watch it just as a season, it is so solid. There wasn't an episode that it was never a terrible episode. Some episodes were stronger than others. I think the episode, the one with the fly, which was directed by Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi, he directed a couple. He directed that, and I'm not pronouncing this right, but Ozymandias. He directed that episode too, which was the penultimate episode. But the Fly was, probably the most criticized episode because it was so just focused on that stupid fly. But if you look deeper into it, it focuses on just Walt's want for control, to have everything right. And if everything's not right, he just stumbles. But it shows the stress getting to him. The way that he thinks, it's kind of an exploration into his psyche, which, when I first saw The Fly, I'm like, oh, okay, it was all right. But now when I watched it again, I'm like, okay, I understand why the episode was there. But the characters, the way the dialogue was, the storytelling, how it built and built and built. You watch the first episode, it's like, it's comical. Oh my God, they're in an RV cooking meth, and they're these small-time dealers. But then it just shows how Walt and Jesse both elevated to where by the last episode there are Nazis kidnapping him. Jesse's been prisoner for a while and tortured. It's just really, really, really dark. While the first episode, it's kind of lighthearted, Hank joking around, the family all together, and it slowly erodes. And for them to do that for 5 seasons, actually 5.5 seasons, really, because the last season was 16 episodes, is just masterful. And Better Call Saul, while not as strong as Breaking Bad. It's still a fantastic show, and it's the same type of storytelling, which I love. So the acting, my God, Bryan Cranston. Oh my God, who's the guy who plays Jesse? Oh my God, this holy shit, what's his name? Okay, so Bryan Cranston as Walt. I'm gonna look up Jesse because this is killing me. Anna Gunn as Skyler, and then Hank and Marie. Those 4 performances. 5 performances. Those 5 actors were just absolutely compelling. Probably Cranston was my favorite, just his emotional scenes, how he would hold in crying, but at the same time he would get maniacal and laugh, then he would go back to crying. Just, he was able to run the gamut of emotions, where a character like Walter White is ultimately a terrible, just evil. I mean, you look at him, he's just done horrible things. He's an evil person, and evil, I don't want to really go into, the philosophy of it, but, here's Walt, a man who is a product of his environment and his circumstances, going from a man who's been scorned and his pride gets to him, and then the environment of him getting cancer. He needs to make money right away because of the way our healthcare system is in this country. There's that joke where, you want to have a Canadian version of Breaking Bad. It's going to be 5 minutes long because he gets his cancer diagnosis and he gets the treatment he needs. So it's just, evil, I think, is, and again, I'm no expert on it, but I think there might be a little bit of a genetic component, but the environment triggers those genetic dispositions. So if you have someone who, I don't know, has evil genes, but they're raised in a nurturing environment, those genes aren't going to come out. But with Walt, it was, just his pride and just what went on in his environment, and just, him not achieving what he wanted to achieve, and then these little steps where he wanted to control everything. So he starts out just, small time cooking meth, and then, he doesn't die from the cancer, and then it just builds and builds and builds to where at the last episode he said to Skyler, he said, I did this because I liked it. I felt alive, and at the beginning you see Walt and he's he's a good guy. You relate to him, you root for him, and that's what's so masterful about this storytelling. You end up rooting for a guy who's doing bad things, and you almost don't root for Hank because Hank is kind of a dick, but Hank is the good guy here. Hank is on the side of justice. His partner Gomez is on the side of justice. Marie, they are the good ones here. But what this story does, it kind of gets you on the side of the bad guy, even though you don't want to be, because you have been taken through this story with Walt and with Jesse. Jesse is no angel either. He has done some really bad things. To where you relate to them, and then you take this journey with them, and then you're on their side. Like Sopranos is kind of the same thing. Tony Soprano is not a good guy, but you're with him the whole time, and you can relate to him. And that's, it's very manipulative storytelling. And it just shows, maybe a little bit about ourselves, just attaching ourselves to certain people and certain personalities, to where you ultimately are like, you want to defend them. I can argue there are some political figures that are the same way, that, even though you think they're doing bad things, it's like, well, I like the guy, and, I just want him to succeed. I'm not naming any names here, even though these political figures can do and justify horrible things, and they have followers that go, yeah, well, I can relate to him, and, he seems like a good guy, and I'm on his side. Not naming any names here. But anyway, so those performances, Anna Gunn, oh my God, just the emotion that she brought is Skylar, and Marie, I don't know her name, and the guy who plays Hank, just their dynamic was just unbelievable. Aaron Paul plays Jesse, and Marie is. Betsy Brandt is Marie, and then Hank I'm just going to say, Hank is Dean Norris. So it's funny with Dean Norris, I remember him from Starship Troopers. He had a small part in that. And then he was also in Total Recall, but he was in so much makeup that you didn't really, recognize him. He played a mutant. So, just great acting, great characters, and you grow with this, with this family.
Family that is rounded out by R.J. Mitte, who brought an authenticity to the performance because of having cerebral palsy. Now, R.J. Mitte doesn't need crutches to walk, but his face, he wasn't an actor without cerebral palsy, making pretend he had cerebral palsy. So there was an authenticity to the role, and I'm sure R.J. Mitte brought his real life experiences to it. But what I thought was, from what I remember of Breaking Bad, what I thought was fascinating about it was that Walt, through his dialogue and through his actions, was almost asking the audience to have sympathy on him, while, because he has a son with disabilities, and it's just the added pressure and the stress of being a parent probably makes you sympathize with Walt more as an audience member. But what was so great about Walt Jr. through R.J. Mitte's performance is that never did Walt Jr. ask for that sympathy. It was always Walt doing it, maybe to try to get some. So I always like that dynamic. I don't know if that was intended or not with the writing, but that's what I picked up. And R.J. Mitte had a good performance overall as Walt Jr.
And then with, you have a character like Saul, and then, he was a recurring character and you liked him, but then to make a whole show out of Saul, I didn't think it could be possible, but it was just fantastic. And then, characters like Gus Fring, where, where it shows just how, mild-mannered guy kind of blending in society, but on the surface, he is just terrifying in his calculations, how smart he is, how careful he is. That's Giancarlo Esposito, and I remember Giancarlo Esposito from Do the Right Thing. Just a young guy from 30 years ago, and just what he's gone on to do. And he's I think Giancarlo Esposito's a method actor, so when he gets into the Gus mode, it takes a toll on him. And I remember he told the story where I think he was on an airplane and he was waiting online to go to the bathroom, and there was a woman on the plane who was just freaking out because she was terrified of him, because she couldn't discern his character from the real life person. And I think in an interview he said he kind of took that as a compliment because he put so much into it. And then I remember with Saul, with Bob Odenkirk, I remember him from the Bob and Dave, the comedy duo, and I'm like, wow, okay, so they got a comedian to do this. Let's see what happens. And then he can also bring dramatic chops, and he's definitely showing it in Better Call Saul. So it's just about a perfect show. It's so solid, and it just quite a journey, and I'm looking forward to more journeys on Breaking Bad. Oh, and I can't forget the character of Mike. Mike was played by Jonathan Banks, and just and Mike is being fleshed out even more in Better Call Saul, which is great. So watching Better Call Saul makes me appreciate the Mike character more. But just again, how smart the character is, how capable and how skilled, and it goes to show you how brilliant Walt was because he defeated all of those characters. But, and it just shows the self-destruction of a character like Jesse and a character like Walt, where, Mike was right. They had a good thing going with Gus, and they were able to put the product out, and they were able to not be seen, but it was always Walt's pride and his ego that got in the way and just made things worse. All the time, and they were just so unpredictable. Both Walt and Jesse, they both went through their downturns, and they both helped each other out. Such a, obviously a father-son relationship, and it was such a great dynamic, love-hate, father-son kind of thing. And but you kind of feel for Mike and Gus in a way, almost, because it's like, listen, we got a good thing, we're comfortable here, and you're just ruining it. But at the same time, with their product, there wasn't any other kind of product on the market, so they wouldn't have been able to, to ascend to the heights that they did. I'm talking about Mike and Gus without Walt. And that was the whole dynamic too. So the show is just based on a lot of dynamics. And what Breaking Bad also did is that it made the consequences and the actions as real as possible. So, there are some shows where it's like, someone sprays someone with machine gun fire and everybody dies and they walk out and they're the hero and they're celebrating. What Breaking Bad did was that it showed the guilt that people like Walt and Jesse felt. It showed the pressure. It showed the decisions that they had to make, and it showed them trying to decide. So it's not like, these were just maniacs like Michael Myers or Freddy or Jason just walking by killing people and laughing, or other shows where people kill other people and they don't show the consequences. It showed that. Like when Hank killed Tuco, it wasn't like, hey, I'm the hero and this is great and we sure got him. On the outside, Hank was kind of like that. But on the inside, he had severe PTSD and severe feelings of guilt. It's not that simple like some TV shows have, where it's like, okay, there's the killing and we move on like it never happened. It's like with Breaking Bad, those consequences stayed with those characters from the moment those actions were committed, and whether you felt they were justified or unjustified is kind of irrelevant. It shows how those characters dealt with their actions. Like when Hank got shot, his recovery lasted like close to a year, where it showed him, in the hospital bed and then trying to walk. And then up until the end of the show, he was walking with a limp, because that's what happens when you get shot, and the way that he got shot, it creates real, long-lasting physical and mental damage. And that's what probably was the best part. Aside from the acting, just the best part of Breaking Bad for me, just the realism. And it shows that actions have consequences. You may have rooted for Walt, he's making money and he's getting revenge, but, the making and distributing of crystal meth causes real harm to people. Real harm to the people who use it, real harm to the people trying to, enforce the law, and then real harm to the people, involved in that illicit trade. So it just showed not only an individual consequence, but it showed a communal consequence, with everybody involved. So, and it showed that it lasts. So that was just a really strong part of the show. And I think I'm done. I think I'm done rambling about this. So thank you for listening to my rambles, and you can find me on Twitter at MMAM Podcast, and you can find me on Facebook at MMAM Podcast. So please rate, please share, please comment, send me a direct message, do what you want. All right? And until next time, bye.